Hello students. So today we will start the third video of chapter 3, okay, physics. So in the previous video we have discussed about the force, contact force, different type of force, an example of contact force and non-contact force. Okay. So today we will start the new topic, that is our Newton's first law of motion. Newton first law of motion. I think everybody know what is Newton's first law of motion. Okay, so what is Newton's first law of motion? This law is sometimes law known as our law of inertia also. That means suppose if a body is in rest, obviously that body will be in rest unless and until some external force is applied on the body. Again, if a body is moving, then if some external force is applied on the body, then only the body will be stopped. Okay, that means every body tends to resist its the state of motion or rest until and unless some external force act on the body. So how we can define it? That it states that every object in this universe will continue its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless acted upon by some external force. Clear? That means a body will continue in its state of rest or motion in a straight line unless and until some external force applied on that body. Okay, suppose we can see one suppose we take one book which is lying on the table. Obviously it will be at rest, so if we apply some force, then only that book will change its position. That means it will change its motion state. Okay, similarly if a marble is rolling, unless and until some external force acted on that marble, then it will not stop. Okay, so due to the frictional force it stops, but if there is no friction, then it will continue in motion. So to stop that marble, we need to apply some force in the opposite direction. So that is our Newton's first law of motion. Okay, that means a body will try to remain in its state of rest or in motion unless and until some external force applied on that body. Okay, so you can read the explanation 1 2. Okay, so our next topic is our inertia. Okay, so what is inertia? That from Newton's first law of motion, it can be safely concluded that a body changes its state or of rest or uniform motion only if some external unbalanced force acts on it. Okay, so what does law of inertia is? The tendency of a body to continue in its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line even when some external unbalanced force act on it is called inertia. So what is inertia? Suppose if we apply a force on a body which is in rest, it will remain in rest, it will try to remain at rest. Okay, or if a body is in motion, okay, and if we apply some unbalanced force, it will try to remain in a position of motion. That means it resists any change. Okay, that is known as our inertia. Okay, so if you define what is inertia, it is the tendency of a body to continue in its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line even when some external unbalanced forces acts on it is called inertia. Clear? So we have three types of inertia. That is, suppose if a body is in rest, if we apply some force, it will remain in rest. That is our inertia of rest. Similarly, inertia of motion. That means a body will continue in motion. If an external unbalanced force acts on it also, then it is said to be inertia of motion. And similarly, we have the third one is our inertia of direction, the tendency of a body by which it is unable to change the direction of motion unless some external unbalanced force acts on it. So we have three different types of inertia. We can say three different types of inertia. Okay. The first one is our inertia of rest. Number two, inertia of motion. And number three, inertia of direction. So I will explain these points. You just write it from the book. Okay, you will find in page number 64, 5 and 66. So what is inertia of rest? Okay, so that it is the tendency of a body to continue in its state of rest. That means if a body is in rest, it tries to remain in position of rest even when some external unbalanced force is applied on it. That is known as our inertia of rest. Suppose let us say, imagine a pile of books placed on a sheet of paper. Okay, on a piece of paper, some pile of book is there. So if the paper is suddenly pulled with a jerk, the book are left behind. Have you noticed that? If you suddenly pull that paper, the book will left behind. Okay, so because of the inertia of rest. Why? Because the books were at rest. Okay, so if you pull the paper, that means they resist the motion. So that means the books still try to remain in the position of rest. So that's why the paper comes forward and the books remain behind. Clear? So you just can read point number B, C, D, E. Okay, 4-5 examples are there. And second one is our inertia of motion. It is the tendency of a body to continue in its state of motion in a straight line even when some external unbalanced force acts on it. Suppose if a body is in motion, it tries to continue in motion in a straight line unless or even when some external forces is act on it. How? Suppose before taking a long jump, a body runs a certain distance. Yes or not? Okay. So because in doing so, he picks up the inertia of motion which helps him taking longer leap. So if he runs, then while jumping, so as he was running, he was in motion. So after jumping also, the body will continue in motion and he will travel some distance. Okay. Similarly, suppose someone is in the backside of bike. Okay, suppose a rider falls forward when a galloping horse stops suddenly, or if someone brakes suddenly. So suppose you are riding a bicycle, anything, okay, car or something, and you are sitting in the back seat. So suppose the car is moving, so our body is also moving. So if the car suddenly applies a brake, so we move forward. That means as our body was in motion, so after applying brake, our body wants to continue in its state of motion. That's why we move forward. So this is known as our inertia of motion. And last one, the inertia of direction. It is the tendency of a body by which it is unable to change the direction of motion. That means if a moving body, it is the tendency by which the moving body tries to continue in a straight line. Okay, it cannot change its direction. How it can change the direction? Only when some external force is applied on it. Okay, suppose in a common experience, that passenger tends to fall sideways when a speeding car takes a sharp turn. Suppose if a bus is traveling in a straight line, suppose it takes sharp turn, then what we do? We generally fall from the seat. Okay, why? Because we are, as the bus was traveling in a straight line, so we are straight on the seat. Okay, but when suddenly the bus takes turn, so we still try to remain in that straight line. Okay, that's why we fall down from the seat, or we what we do, we tend to fall sideways. Okay, so due to the which it is the inertia of direction. Clear? So up to this, you try to understand all the points, and if you find any difficulty, then ask the queries. Okay, so in the next video we will learn about the linear momentum and some units also, and we will do some numerical problem. Okay, so we have two more laws: Newton's second law of motion and Newton's third law of motion. Okay, thank you.